Bhargav, Chairman Maruti Suzuki, for the keynote address. Mr. Bhargav completed his MSc in Mathematics from University of Allahabad in 1954, MA in Development Economics from Williams College in USA in 1963. He joined the Indian Administrative Service in 1956 on the basis of an all-India competitive examination and secured the number 1 position in India. He worked on various posts in UP and J&K till 1973, when he came to the central government. His last posting in Delhi was Joint Secretary in the Cabinet Secretariat. Mr. Bhargava joined Maruti Udyog Limited soon after its incorporation in 1981 as Director Marketing and Sales. Mr. Bhargava was appointed as the Managing Director CEO in 1985. He continued on this post till he retired in 1997. He was re-inducted to the board in 2003 when the company was listed. He was appointed as the non-executive chairman in 2007, a position he continues to hold to date. Mr. Bhargava has been on the board of directors of a number of leading companies in India. He was also associated with educational institutions for a long time. He has written a book, The Maruti Story, and also authored a book in Japanese on Suzuki strategy in India. Mr. Bhargava was awarded the Padma Bhushan in 2016. In November 2011, the Emperor of Japan had conferred on Mr. Bhargava the Order of the Rising Sun Gold and Silver Star. He has also been given the Lifetime Award for Management by the Economic Times and the All India Management Association. He has also received the Forbes India Leadership Award for Lifetime Achievement. Mr. Bhargava.
Good morning, and thank you very much for inviting me and giving me this opportunity to be here with you. Mr. Mathur, Mr. Saraf, all old friends, and ladies and gentlemen. It's somewhat strange that till 2014, the use of natural gas for the transportation industry was at the lowest priority of the government. It was only less than 6 years ago that the government finally took a decision and realized that the use of gas for transportation and for domestic purposes should be the number 1 priority for the allocation of domestic gas. Things move in India, they move slowly, but ultimately things happen, but much later than they should. Now, why is this gas important to us? I think it's important, it's really necessary to understand the reason why we should focus very strongly on using gas for the transportation industry. The import of crude, which is so far the basic fuel for the transportation industry, has already reached a figure of 226 million tons. The cost is something like $112 billion. It's a huge, huge drain on our foreign exchange resources. But this is nowhere near the end of the story, because today India has just 30 million cars, and the penetration of vehicles in India is less than 1/5 of what it is in a country like China, which has an equally large population compared to us. The potential for future growth is enormous. Has to be, because without mobility, you cannot get economic development and better quality of life for the people of the country. Even at the slower growth rate which we have been experiencing, the estimate is that by 2030, that's 10 years from today, the car population will increase from the present 30 million to somewhere between 80 and 90 million cars. The two-wheeler population in India, which provides the bulk of the commuting needs of the people, is much larger. It's about 200 million two-wheelers in the country, growing at 23 million per year last year. And by the time we get to 2030, we should be in the range of 350 to 400 million two-wheelers. That's the kind of growth which is going to happen, and you can work out what its implications are in terms of the fuel bill if nothing is done to rectify this situation. Nationally, it's important not only because of the fuel purchase outflow of foreign exchange, but because there is also an energy strategic risk associated with the import of crude, which comes from a very limited number of countries. And as development takes place and the world becomes competitive, strategic aspects have also to be borne in mind in national policy making. Now, India is very different today in the transportation sector from virtually any other country in the world. Two main factors. One is the rate of growth of the industry and the potential for growth. Whether it is the US, whether it is Europe, whether it is Japan, and now even China, have more or less plateaued out in their demand. It's only a replacement demand. India has, as I just mentioned, a huge potential for growing every year. That changes the parameters of what we have to plan for. The second is, we are the only country in the world where predominantly the car purchase and car population are small cars. Nowhere in the world is 70-75% of what is produced and sold every year small cars. Why am I mentioning small cars? Because small cars are much more amenable to use of gas than big cars, because you don't need that kind of energy intensity in use of in small cars. And therefore, till we get some alternative sources for petroleum, and I'll come to that in a minute, gas becomes eminently acceptable to us. Technology exists. The consumer is happy using CNG cars. The sale of CNG cars was 60,000 cars from Maruti in 2015-16. This year, it's going to be about 125,000. It's doubled. But if you look at the total CNG cars, including cars which are retrofitted with CNG kits after sale, the population of CNG cars sold this year will still be about 250,000. 250,000 cars out of a sale in the country of about 35 lakh cars is only a very, very small percentage. So while we may feel very happy that we have doubled CNG sales in this period, please realize that it's a very small part of total car sales. The potential for converting more customers to CNG is very high. And the reason is, of course, that the customer wants it. In Delhi, those of who have experienced, people have been buying CNG cars despite the fact that they have stood 20 to 30 minutes in a queue to get CNG filled in their cars. It's getting better now, but despite that long wait, people wanted to buy CNG cars because they found it more economical, more convenient to use. Now, what it means is that we have to accelerate the use of CNG cars. How to do that? The first thing to remember in all these things always is It's the customer who decides how fast we will grow. It's not Maruti, it's not CNG, ONGC or CNG or anybody else. It's the customer who decides. Unless the customer is willing to buy a product, and whether it's a CNG car or any other product, the product cannot grow in its production and sales. So please always remember the importance of ensuring that you give to the customer a product which he prefers to use compared to other products if you want the sale of that product to go up. Therefore, in planning for CNG growth and its use, we must keep in mind customer convenience, customer willingness to buy that product. It must be in the customer's interest to buy that product, not in the interest of Maruti, not in the interest of GAIL or any other body. It must be in the consumer interest. I'm repeating this again and again because all these years since independence, the customer has generally been somebody who's ignored in all policy making. We do not look at the customer, whether it was the planning during the licensing and control period or subsequent policy making. Very rarely does the customer come into the picture. What the customer requirements are not taken into account. What is convenient to me, what is more beneficial to me is what comes into the picture. The second thing I would like to suggest is that when making the policies and the implementation strategies, the only way to get the best success is that you must first build partnerships with people with whom you're going to do that business. We cannot do everything ourselves. You have to have people who are going to be associated in doing that business with you. If it is CNG, it is the car maker, it is the producer of the gas, it is the distributor of the gas, it is the person who's dispensing the gas. All of these people are associated. All of them must have a common interest and must work together as partners. Partners succeed and partnerships succeed provided there is trust between the partners, provided there's a common understanding of what we are trying to do between the partners. They all agree on what is to be done. And lastly, it must provide a win-win situation for all the partners. It cannot be a win for one and a loss for the other. Having been in government, I can say that often when we make our rules and our proposals which have a commercial angle, we tend to see what is best in government's interest. And we try and protect government interest, partly because perhaps we are worried that someday some authority might investigate and say that, no, you haven't looked after government interest. But if you look after only government interest and not worry about the interest of the other party, it won't work. It hasn't worked, it won't work in the future. It has to be a win-win for both sides. It has to be a fair deal for both sides. In particular, when we look at distribution arrangements and other arrangements, the partners concerned must get an economic incentive to do this business. It cannot be by control, it cannot be by regulation, it cannot be by law. They must have an economic incentive to do it. Doing this business should be competitive in terms of profits and returns compared to any alternative business opportunity which they have. If you ensure that, you will succeed and the business will grow further. I'm saying this from experience because this is exactly what we have tried to do in Maruti, that give to customers, look after the customers, and give them something which is going to benefit them also and will benefit me, and that's how we get growth. So remember the importance of customer, partnerships, building trust, and building a win-win situation based on economic benefits to both. growth potential, as I said, is enormous. I think we need to bring the other people, whether it's the local authorities who have to give permissions, and as was mentioned, there are lots of issues in building infrastructure in India where people tend to look at it from their point of view. They do not look at it from the national point of view. They do not feel that they have an involvement in what is happening. And the situation now, which I think we have to correct, because we cannot go ahead in this country on this basis of everybody looking at things from only their point of view, is that to get the governments involved, get the leadership involved in telling and educating these people that this is something which is in the national interest. If this happens, all of us are going to gain out of this. Build a national consensus on the importance of this program, get people involved in it, get them also wanting this to happen because it's going to do good for them, and then I think we can go ahead. So my view is that going forward, the use of CNG, the availability of CNG is obviously very much in our favor. Today we are using only a fraction of the CNG which is available for the transportation industry. I believe it's some 11 MMSCMD or some such figure like that which we are using out of a domestic production of how much, 80, 85, some figure like that. So we are using a very small part even of our domestic production. I'm not even including the import CNG, and we have contracts with a number of countries, and we can get a lot of CNG. It's widely available, and it will substitute for oil, it'll reduce oil, it'll improve our strategic things. One last thing, environment. A lot has talked about environment, and as if the use of CNG is going to suddenly clean up everything. Let's be clear on this. Firstly, the automobile population of India is so low, and forget Delhi, which is more congested, but the rest of the country, the population is so low that automobile pollution in India is not an issue. Even in Delhi, studies have shown that from cars, not others, the total PM 2.5 is between 2 and 3% of the total in the atmosphere in normal times. It becomes lower when you have the Punjab crop burning thing coming in. In the rest of the country, it's much lower. Two-wheelers, which consume 62% of the petrol, are about 3 times more than the cars. Truck pollution in Delhi has gone down because of these peripheral roads. You don't get that kind of pollution anymore. But what is now important is that in future, from next month, all vehicles are going to be BS6. Once you have a BS6 vehicle, whether it is petrol, whether it is diesel, or whether it's CNG, the emissions from these vehicles, including CNG, is not much different. And all three, in that sense, are equally clean once you get to BS6. And as we go forward, out of the total population of cars, two-wheelers, and commercial vehicles, the population of BS6 vehicles will keep increasing every year, and the population of BS4, BS3, BS2 will all keep going down. So there's going to be a marked reduction in automobile emission as we go forward, despite the increase in the vehicle population. So the requirement of CNG is not so much for emission, although that's the popular way of looking at it. It's not true. What is important is reduce oil import, reduce strategic dependency. So I hope as a result of these discussions, we'll work out a strategy by which we can move faster. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.